At the beginning of the movie, we see Bangil and his senior harem traveling from Korea to Los Angeles. Harem is now a shaman, and Bangil is her assistant. They were summoned by a real estate businessman named Park, who lives in Los Angeles, for a special reason. As soon as they land at the airport, Park's assistant takes them straight to a hospital. Park's newborn baby is in the ICU. The baby has been sick since birth. Despite receiving treatment from all the top doctors in the city, the baby is not getting better. After performing some rituals, Harem discovers that the baby is the victim of a curse placed by Park's grandfather, who died 100 years ago. To discuss the matter in detail, Park invites them to his home. Every elder and newborn in Park's family has been suffering from this issue for a long time. It first happened to his brother, who ended up committing suicide in a mental hospital because of it. After his death, the curse passed on to Park and his newborn child. This problem is hereditary. Whenever they close their eyes, they hear someone crying in agony. At night, they are haunted by nightmares. After observing the house and using her shamanic abilities, Harem declares that the family is under the curse of their deceased grandfather. In their tradition, it is called an ancestral call, meaning the spirit of a deceased ancestor is suffering or was betrayed. Although the family moved to America later, the grandfather's grave remains in Korea. Harem says there is a way to break the curse, but she needs the help of two people, Sangdeek and John. Sangdeek and John work together and have known Harem for a long time. Harem explains the whole situation to them and suggests that the likely reason for the curse is that Park's grandfather was not buried properly according to the correct rituals. After his death, the family shifted to America, and since they did not follow the appropriate post-death rituals, the grandfather's spirit became furious. To fix this, they must exhume the body, perform the required rituals, and rebury him properly. However, other family members don't believe in such things and are unwilling to dig up an ancestor's grave. But Park is determined to do it. Since he belongs to a prestigious family, Park wants the matter to remain secret and lays down a few conditions. First, no government or private organization should find out about the exhumation. Second, the body must not be removed from the coffin. Third, the coffin must be reburied on the same day with all the proper rituals. Although Sangdeek finds the conditions a bit suspicious, he doesn't say much. Soon after, Park takes Sangdeek and the team to Gongul City. When they reach the grave, Sangdeek is shocked. The place is in an abandoned forest near the Japan-Korea border, in the mountains. They couldn't understand why a man from such a prestigious family was buried in such a remote place. Their suspicion doesn't end there. A stone placed over the grave doesn't have a name but instead has random numbers and strange chants inscribed on it. When asked about it, Park says that his grandfather was a Korean general, and based on the advice of a specialist named Mong Kuzian, he was buried there out of respect. Also, since grave robbing was common at that time, they tried to build the grave in a way that would remain hidden and appear ordinary. But Sangdeek's fear and suspicion continue to grow. According to Feng Shui, the place is unusually filled with negative energy. On top of that, exhuming the dead is considered inauspicious. And the presence of foxes near the grave is even more disturbing. That night, after returning to the hotel, Park reveals that he had 2 previous children, both of whom were miscarried. And now, even this child is suffering terribly. So he pleads with them to save the baby at any cost. Sangdeek straightforwardly asks, "Mr. Park, you're hiding something. The writing on the grave isn't random numbers, they're latitude and longitude coordinates." He adds, digging up a grave without fully knowing the truth is like touching a landmine. And the fact that the so-called specialist deliberately orchestrated this whole thing increases suspicion. At that point, Harem proposes they use the evil replacing technique. This involves performing certain rituals to reduce the negative energy of the location and restore balance between positive and negative forces. For this, they need 5 dead pigs and 5 people, all of whom must have the same birth year as the pigs. The pigs must be ritually connected to the people and then buried. Although Park's aunt initially opposes this, she is present at the scene. Finally, the ritual begins. Park is asked to strike the grave 3 times to begin the process. After that, 5 people begin digging, and with each strike, Harem slashes one of the dead pigs. This continues for a while until they finally find the coffin, a heavy, ornamented one made with expensive fabric, the kind used for royal families. Then John prepares the body to be reburied in Los Angeles. While digging the grave, one of the 5, Changmin, sees a strange snake with no head. Out of fear, Changmin kills it, and for a brief moment, sees a woman's face where the head should have been. The snake lets out a terrifying scream that echoes through the mountain forest. Suddenly, dark clouds cover the sky, and a heavy storm breaks out, an ominous sign. It's said that if someone is buried during rain, their soul reaches heaven. Until the rain stops, the body is secretly kept in an empty hospital morgue. The morgue's caretaker is stunned by the coffin's artwork, and his eyes gleam with greed. Meanwhile, to clear up his doubts, Sangdik visits a monk from the nearby Bago temple, which is over 100 years old and historically linked to local bloodlines. He asks about Mong Cusian and the grave but finds that no one by that name ever existed there. However, there are many rumors about the grave. It is believed to be the resting place of North Korea's richest man, where hidden treasure lies. At one point, grave robbers frequently attempted to dig it up, and many digging tools were found there. But none of the thieves were ever caught. It was as if someone or something was guarding the grave. Meanwhile, the morgue caretaker secretly tries to open the coffin, but a mysterious force is released. As a result, Harem starts bleeding from her nose. When Sangdik comes to see her at the hospital, Harem tells him that a powerful negative spirit has been released from the coffin, none other than Park's grandfather's soul. That night, Park's father is sitting alone. Suddenly, from outside, a cold voice calls out, "So, how have you been? Open the door. Won't you let me in?" As soon as the door opens, a cold wind enters the room, and it's revealed that Park's grandfather's spirit is standing there. In a mocking tone, he says, "I see the traitors are doing quite well." Before the words even finish, the grandfather's spirit strangles Park's parents to death. Harem informs Sangdik about everything and urges him to save Park. Because the family never prayed for the grandfather's soul, not even once visited the grave to offer food after his death, his spirit is now killing everyone in the family. Meanwhile, Sangdik calls Park, explains the whole situation, and tells him not to open the door no matter who knocks until he arrives at the hotel. At that very moment, there's a knock at the door, and Sangdik's voice is heard, "Park, open the door." A frightened Park, still on the call, asks, "Are you calling me from outside?" The voice on the phone replies, "A lot has happened since your grandfather's coffin was opened. If you want to survive, open the window and let him in. Otherwise, you will die." As Park opens the window, the voice on the phone suddenly changes into his grandfather's voice. Park realizes he has made a huge mistake. When he opens the door and allows his grandfather in, he becomes possessed immediately. Just then, Sangdik breaks the door and enters, only to find Park standing rigidly on the table, fully possessed. This is where the truth is revealed about how Park's family became so rich. In 1894, when Japanese soldiers attacked Seoul, Park's grandfather, a Korean general, betrayed his country for money and sided with the Japanese. That betrayal led to the family's wealth and influence, but instead of honoring him, the family left Korea and moved to America. In his possessed state, Park tells Sangdik a cryptic riddle for the last time, "The fox carts of the tiger's west." Right after that, the spirit breaks Park's neck and kills him. Now the grandfather's spirit heads straight for Park's baby. Sangdik realizes that burying the coffin again is useless. To save the baby, the coffin must be burned immediately, or else, the baby, Park, and Park's aunt's family will all die. Finally, with Park's aunt's consent, they burn the coffin. As a result, the grandfather's spirit vanishes forever. But, is that really the end of all the problems? Later, Sangdik learns that since the day Changmin helped dig the grave, he has become seriously ill. When Sangdik meets him, Changmin says that even doctors are of no help. Every night, he screams uncontrollably and sees terrifying visions. He regrets killing that strange snake and says, "I shouldn't have done that." So, Changmin requests Sangdik to find the snake's body and properly cremate it. Sangdik returns to Park's grandfather's grave, and after some searching, he finds the two halves of the dead snake. As soon as he sees the snake, he's shocked. Then, while digging, his tool strikes something hard underground. Panicked, he digs deeper around Park's grandfather's grave, and to his horror, he uncovers another strange, upright coffin, something he has never seen before. When he informs the others, they rush to the site and discover a giant coffin, about 9 to 10 feet long, wrapped in barbed wire. Now the question arises, why was this coffin wrapped in barbed wire? That night, they keep the coffin in Bago Temple's burn house, surrounded by a circle of blessed rice and horse blood. Meanwhile, Sangdik meets with Park's aunt to ask about her father's grave. It's revealed that Mong Cusian was not Korean, but actually Japanese, and his real name was Jisun. It's said that this man was deeply knowledgeable about Korea's geography. But then another question comes up, if Park's grandfather had betrayed Korea and helped Japan, why did a Japanese man betray him in return? That night, after dinner, everyone falls asleep, except Harem, who sits alone, remembering her late grandmother. Her grandmother also had powers just like Harem. It's midnight. Bangil suddenly sees a temple monk standing on his chest, saying, "He took my liver." The monk's body is covered in deep wounds. As Bangil gathers himself and starts chanting protective spells, the figure disappears. Now suspicious, he goes alone to check the burn house. The door is locked from the inside. Suddenly, Bangil hears horrifying squeals from the distant pig shed. Through a gap in the tin wall, he peeks and freezes in fear. A 9-foot-tall humanoid creature is seen tearing off the monk's head. Panicked, Bangil runs back and wakes up Harem. Even though her grandmother's spirit tries to stop her, Harem rushes to the burn house. As soon as they open the door, they are shocked into silence. The coffin lid has been ripped off, and the roof above it is shattered. When Harem sends someone to wake everyone up, they discover inside the coffin a Japanese samurai helmet. Just then, Harem hears heavy footsteps outside. A tall, broad demon comes and stands at the door. In a terrifying voice, the demon growls, "Are there humans inside? Did you bring me something sweet or some fish to eat?" Harem, lowering her head and trembling, replied in a shaky voice, "I'm not human. I am your obedient servant. Please forgive me. I will prepare food right away." Immediately, the demon began to chase Harem. Bangil, trying to save her, stabbed the demon in the stomach with a metal rod, but it couldn't pierce through the demon's armor. Both were frozen in fear as they saw the demon's full form. Its eyes had been gouged out, and its entire face was burnt. The demon grabbed Bangil's head, shoved its hand into his stomach, and ripped his insides out, causing Bangil to fall unconscious. The demon then slowly advanced towards Harem. As Harem backed away in fear, the demon suddenly stopped. It noticed that Harem was sitting on a Hmong pagoda, which is a sacred structure used to preserve the ashes of deceased Buddhist monks. Upon seeing that, the demon began to chant, transforming into a flame that rose into the air. At the same time, Harem started seeing scattered visions. When Sangdik and John arrived, they were stunned to witness this horrifying scene. After a few moments, the demon disappeared into the mountains, heading towards Park's grandfather's grave. The next day, Harem admitted everyone to the hospital. Bangil had regained consciousness, but his condition was still critical. The other two had high fevers. By then, the news had spread on TV, where a reporter claimed the incident was caused by a wild bear attack. Harem was deeply worried about what happened the previous night, because ghosts don't have physical bodies or cast shadows, but this demon had both, meaning it was a real demon. It is said that when the worst kind of human dies, they can become a demon due to a curse. Just then, they received news that Bangil had to be transferred to a bigger hospital for surgery. Sangdik made a decision. Since all this began because of him, he would be the one to atone. So, he set out alone for Bago Temple. There, he began researching old books and scrolls kept at the temple. Meanwhile, Harem realized that Bangil had been possessed by the demon. She called her sister for help. But then Bangil, with a mysterious smile, said, "He's coming." By that time, Sangdik had dug up the area around Park's grandfather's grave and saw the demon lying there. Which meant, the demon remained dormant during the day and awakened at night. With all doubts cleared, Sangdik returned to the hotel and revealed the truth. Before dying, Park had said, "The fox carts of the tigers west." It's believed that in ancient times, in order to weaken Korea and curse its land, Japanese feng shui experts planted spellbound metal rods in certain sacred places. The so-called grave robbers Park mentioned weren't thieves at all, they were guardians trying to find and remove those rods to free Korea from the curse. But the last rod was never found. The phrase, "the fox carts of the tigers west," refers to this very event, where Japan planted a cursed rod in tiger-shaped Korean land using shamanic rituals, and the demon was left as the guardian of that particular spot to prevent anyone from removing it. Harem also realized that the only reason the demon couldn't kill Bangil that day was because he had a Korean spell tattooed on his body. So now, to save Bangil, they had to destroy the demon and, for Korea's sake, find and retrieve the final rod. According to plan, Harem's sister would stay with Bangil, while Harem, Sangdik, and John would go to the demon's resting place. They all tattooed temporary protective spell marks on their bodies for safety. Now they waited for nightfall. The plan was for Harem to lure the demon out of the grave using incantations and horse blood, then either kill or weaken it, while the other two would dig up the grave and retrieve the rod. They used sweet treats and fish as bait, and everything went according to plan. As the demon awoke, it followed the smell of fish and chased Harem, while the others began digging the grave. But despite all efforts, they couldn't find the rod. Meanwhile, Harem could barely hold the demon off. Just as the demon tried to kill her, her grandmother's spirit appeared and saved her. The demon did not harm Harem, as it was only meant to guard the grave from humans. As Harem ran breathlessly, she met John, who told her they found nothing inside the grave. Just then, they saw the demon transform into a ball of fire and return to the grave, which meant Sangdik was in grave danger. Sangdik saw death closing in. Today was his final day. Suddenly, the demon placed its hand on his back and asked, "Do you want to become my servant? Or shall I take your liver?" Without waiting, the demon pierced Sangdeek's stomach with its sharp claw. To save him, Haram drenched the demon in spellblessed horseblood, causing the demon's entire body to burst into flames. As the demon lifted both Haram and John by the neck, Haram started having visions. This is where the true origin of the demon was revealed. During the war, a Japanese general was beheaded, and his body was stitched with various animal parts. A 10,000 soul, blood-soaked flaming blade was inserted into his torso, his head was sewn back on, and the body was buried underground. Which meant, the last cursed metal rod was not anywhere else, it was inside the demon itself. Later, Park's grandfather was buried above that very demon, because the shaman knew nobody would dare dig up the grave of a nobleman. But when Park's grandfather's body was exhumed, and that strange snake was killed, the first guardian was removed. Next, the wooden coffin was lifted from the ground. Only metal and fire remained, the burning blade inside the demon's body. By now, Sangdeek understood everything. He struck the demon's leg with an axe, and the demon released Haram and John. Then, the demon grabbed Sangdeek's head by the crown. But by then, Sangdeek was fully ready. With all his remaining strength, he struck the demon and tore it in half. Wounded, Sangdeek collapsed into the grave. He had freed everyone from the curse. Elsewhere, Bangil was also released from the possession. Sangdeek had returned from the jaws of death. Everyone's prayers had brought him back. And with that, the movie comes to an end.